A lot of you people have been emailing me and asking me questions about some more detail in this log splitter. And I'll be honest with you, it was really just a bunch of scrap that was thrown together. It's sitting on a small boat trailer. And we had an old boat that was pretty shot. It was just a little boat. And so that was bound to be scrapped. Of course, my pop is pretty resourceful. We had a cooler engine on it. And it was like an 18 horsepower cooler. And Dad had this old lawnmower that had this 15 horsepower. I think it's probably a Briggs on it. And it was a lot smaller than the old cooler. And it runs a lot smoother. It's a lot more efficient on gas. So that was why I replaced that. And between the engine and the hydraulic pump is literally just some homemade coupler. It's a couple of plates with some of these rubber motor isolators. So that's really not a big deal to fab up. Of course, you could use a Lovejoy, a coupler if you wanted to. I don't know what this piece come off of. Probably some piece of heavy equipment or something. The same with the tank. It's just an everyday tank, hydraulic tank, probably off some big piece of heavy equipment again. And then the valves, just a simple push and pull valve configuration. Nothing really complicated about that. It's sitting on a beam, and the beam come from the neighbor. He had some of these laying in his woods. It was really too thin to make a log splitter out of. They were pretty rough shape, but they were free. So Dad took one of them, and the way we reinforced this is just some heavy wall 2x2, and this 1 inch plate here, 3/4 inch plate, actually I think it's 1 inch, is welded to this tube, and then this tube's also welded and bolted to this plate, and this plate is a pretty hefty plate. It looks like it'd be a 1/2 inch. Actually I know it's a 1/2 inch because it was from a project I was building, and I had some extra 1/2 inch plate that he took. So that reinforced the beam so it could handle without flexing, and it does a pretty good job. And then this head, the cylinder was just an old cylinder, again, probably off some heavy piece of equipment or heavy machine or something, and it was broken. So he just welded the end back on. And this is just a couple of pieces of heavy, again, heavy wall 2x2, and he just kind of pinned them in and made that configuration. If you look underneath it, you'll see, if I can get this in a picture. Yeah. There's some angle iron that grabs underneath here to keep the slide from picking up. So he's got this built, those long ears go through, and then there's that angle iron. A couple of bolts there so you could take it off. I'm sure that's why he didn't weld it. And that just keeps the head from picking up when it gets pinched in by a log. And then on top, you can see there's these long sliders that it slides right on top. So that way it can push forward and backwards and not pick off the deck. And then the cutters, it was kind of specific on the cutters. They're just 1/2 inch pieces of steel that were grinded down with a little bit of a point. And really doesn't have to be a good point. There's enough hydraulic force that just splits them without any problem. But he staggered them on purpose, because what he was wanting was not all 3 blades in the center, or 4 if it's hanging over, or 5 will be hitting the log at the same time. So each blade is taken in about a 1/2 inch deeper and deeper as it progresses in. That way you're not shoving that log against 5 blades at equal distance all the time. So you might be able to make a split once, and they'll shove a little more, and the resistance is gone because the split was made, and the next knives make their split, and just makes it a little easier on everything. Even this top overlip overhangs quite a bit from this blade. That way it gets split in half before the resistance of the other blades. Really, that's about it. You know, Pop's pretty ingenious, and so he put this little lift on it, and it's just nothing more than a two-man dolly. I mean, you know, or a single-man dolly, a two-wheel dolly that, you know, he kind of cut off and modified so he can roll a log on it. And there's a little teeny cylinder back here that drops in the end of that, and you know, from that lever on the other side, he can lift this up and down, so it makes it a little easier on him to lift heavy logs. So hopefully that answers some of your questions. You know, I certainly didn't design it, but it's fairly self-explanatory when you dig into it. I'd say this is probably the lift log. This lifts that up and down the other side. That's my guess. That's all there is to it. It's not anything overly complicated, and you know, the average backyard guy should be able to pull this off without much work.